Alright everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're reacting and having a discussion about a video from Quiet Kills titled Darth Vader is coming to DVD. So I'm going to link the original video in the description if you want to watch the original and support Quiet Kills. And at the end, I'll also include some other Quiet Kills videos that I've spoken about in the past. But for right now, let's get into it. Also, I wanted to mention that I also had talked about Darth Vader kind of entering, the fog, I guess, in that kind of way. I will include that at the end as well, just talking about it. I did drop a video about it, and you can hear my sort of concept on that within that video. So let's get into it.
Alright everybody, tighten your chastity belts and buckle up. The Fortnitification of DBD is real. The other day in an interview with Matthew Cote, the game director for Dead by Daylight, a bombshell announcement was dropped on the DBD community, and it was something nobody saw coming. This news may not only signify a big shift in direction for the future of Dead by Daylight, but could potentially be one of the most impactful additions to the game ever. But in the light of this announcement, a civil war has broken out amongst all of the unemployed people on the streets of DBD Twitter, and b.h.v.r.'s next move could seriously change everything. So let's get into it. So in a recent interview with Matthew Cote, not only was it mentioned that a prop hunt mode may be coming to DBD, but he also revealed that b.h.v.r. has been talking about bringing Darth Vader to Dead by Daylight, which hands down would be the biggest license to ever come to the game. And apparently,
I find it really funny that FNAF was considered the largest license to ever come to Dead by Daylight before this even was a thought, right? And it's insane that now that we've achieved the Five Nights at Freddy's sort of license, which is already controversial in its own, and I've already kind of spoken extensively about those topics, which are already on the channel, just sort of discussing, what different people's opinions, which you guys know full well that I may not be a fan of the Five Nights at Freddy's, is because I haven't played the games at all. But I will say that I appreciate the character and the license, and I do appreciate the attention to detail in the map design, as well as the fact that the ability is very unique in a lot of ways, despite the criticisms. And obviously I can, that'll be on the channel as well. But either way, I do think that Darth Vader would be an interesting addition, and I would like to honestly see what he could do. Honestly, as you guys know as well, I have discussed it on the channel before. I had actually made a video talking about a couple of concepts and ideas of what I think could be added into the game. And I will also add on the fact that a prop hunt does seem like up their alley when it comes to behavior. We did have a My Little Oni from April Fools all that time ago, where you literally don't even really smack people around. You're they were a giant Oni stepping on tiny little survivors, like little ants, just stepping on them, squashing them, stuff like that. And them running around the map and stuff like that was, a mode that they did try, you know what I mean? They already had mentioned in previous interviews and stuff like that they wanted to kind of expand on the more unique ways that they can create more interesting experiences and stuff like that. So it does make sense, and I do understand that that is also a possibility because of it. But let's continue.
we're already getting an early look at one of his powers. Behold! Testicle twist. Darth Vader will use the power of the Force to grip a survivor by the testicles and twist them viciously until they explode. I have been waiting for an ability like this forever, and I am stoked that after all of my emails to b.h.v.r., they are finally listening. Nah, I'm just yanking.
Yeah, it's been a long time, man. Man, it's good to watch a Quiet Kills video and as I swear, man, it's always hilarious. Oh man, imagine if it was though, you know, like that'd be a completely different DVD after that.
your chain. Nothing has been confirmed yet, but the fact that this is even being spoken about by Behavior actually has some pretty big implications, as this could mean Behavior is really looking to push their current boundaries and start opening the doors up for some potentially insane future collaborations beyond the limits of just.
I want to quickly pause this because I want to point out a couple of different licenses that I recognize immediately that I think would be very interesting to add into the game. One that stood out was Scooby-Doo. Very well known that people would have loved that idea. Here's another one. You have BioShock, Amnesia, Megan. You also have Spawn, Little Nightmares, The Old Frankenstein, Elvira, Final Destination. I wouldn't know how you would do Final Destination though, considering that it wasn't a killer. It was like objects and other things like pertaining to death and all that kind of stuff. You have Annabelle, Hannibal Lecter. I forgot what the name of this one was, but it was oh my god, I forgot the name. They also have Happy Death Day, I think that is, or something like that, with the baby face. Yes. Death Note. The Boys. Yeah. Helsing. Devil May Cry. Doom. Spirit Halloween is an interesting one to add in here. Demon Slayer. There's another one over here for Berserk, one of my personal favorites. Wednesday. Oh, American Psycho would be fantastic as well. The Shining. Dead Space. Like, these are all really interesting ideas. And Outlast I noticed there as well. I will say that an American Horror Story, a lot of these I do think do have a place in the game. You know, I think that horror adjacent stuff is worth talking about. You know, and I know that some people are sort of against the idea that it's becoming, like, as they call it, a Fortnitification, which I probably can discuss that in a different video. But me personally, as somebody who is familiar with that sort of concept, as somebody who's been playing that game, like, you know, just mainly, I wouldn't say I play it. I would say I just like just collecting the battle pass skins all this time, as somebody who's been playing since its release. But either way, you know, point being, like, with that kind of thing, it is understandable that you don't really want the game to kind of go into a direction where it kind of feels that way, but it's sort of heading in that direction, whether we kind of like it or not, in that sense. And I don't really think it's that bad of a concept. I mean, they even have Buffy the Vampire Slayer in this little image here. Like, these are all very I think that's Chainsaw Man as well. A lot of very interesting licenses that they could really get their hands on. I Know What You Did Last Summer as well. That one's another good one. Like, I like the idea that like, if the door is open to have more unique licenses and more unique monsters and other things like that, because I think that means that we'll get like, it'll make the game a bit more popular, which can obviously mean that the community can expand beyond its little niche. And Carnage as well, that's a cool idea. I like that too. I'm looking at that as well. Like, I like the idea personally that we can, you know, as a horror enjoyer, you know, we can see more horror stuff on a horror game that already has plenty of horror licenses, and beyond the fact that you know, with each new license they add, I feel like they really knock it out of the park as time progresses. So, you know, and I'm coming from the standpoint that, like, Myers, I think, like, and Freddy and Ghostface are just, like, very, like, almost, like, extremely iconic, but they're also, because of their age, are very, very lackluster in cosmetics and very lackluster with their abilities in a lot of ways. And the idea that at least other licenses that can enter the game will be more faithful to the source material, will be much more interesting to play. You know, at least will give me, personally, as a player, like, something to look forward to and something to want to kind of engage with within the game. Because honestly, like, there's a lot of like, honestly, like, as somebody who plays mainly the licenses anyway, I do prefer you know, those licenses. I'm not you know, that's what really got me into the game anyway. I think that it would be a pretty good idea, you know, at least for me personally. I like the idea. But let me know what you guys think in the comments, if you have anything that you think would be your dream license, or maybe you disagree with the idea that we should keep adding, you know, licenses that people enjoy, you know. And I don't know, you know, I think I like the idea that there's more.
Just horror. We've already seen this quite a bit recently with various additions to the game, such as Lara Croft, Nicolas Cage, and D&D's Vecna, but this collab could essentially cement the fact that truly nothing is off the table when it comes to who can be brought into the fog. And so this whole idea of behavior,
I do understand the idea that it does kind of open up that door where it feels like almost anybody can really be in DBD. But like the thing is though, is that, you know, people are, I guess, because most people are not like really fully aware, I guess, of you know, maybe not, they're not as big Star Wars fans or anything like that, but there is a lot of horror elements that does exist in DBD. I mean, not in DBD, in Star Wars, and it's not something that's prominent within like really the common, like, you know, original trilogy or the prequel or anything, or prequels or anything like that. But like within comic books, novels, and stuff like that, within that kind of space, and like maybe some gaming, like there is some horror elements. And I do think that's why Lara Croft was also considered, because there apparently, from what I've heard, because I haven't had the chance to play the games yet, I've heard that there are like horror elements in those games. Like there's like elements in there that really lean into those kinds of things. And I'd want to add on the fact that, like, just because, like, you know, Star Wars in itself seems just like specifically sci-fi, there are elements, and, you know, Darth Vader in itself, you know, in himself is one of the most like despicable characters next to like Palpatine in terms of Star Wars lore and other things like that. So I mean, you know, I feel like it would fit at least thematically, where, you know, a character like that is so focused on being I don't like not like, I guess, turn to villainy, I guess, in that way. Like, they were convinced in some kind of way to join, you know, the dark side, if you, in other words. And honestly, I think that it does fit, in my opinion. I'm more open to the idea. I don't really see, you know, at least that's just how I got into the game personally. That's how I got into this community, is because of the Ghostface license, which, mind you, is not from Scream at all, and I still you know, I still am salty about it to this day. But either way, you know, we do what we can with what we have. But at least with the future licenses, like even Chucky, I think, was one of the best like ways to represent the license. So when it comes to Vader, I think that it seems outlandish to most casuals who are crossing past the Star Wars lane. You know what I mean? And I understand that. But I do think that there's things that are in there that can be considered horror, you know, ultimately. But, you know, it's hard to kind of explain it in this kind of video that doesn't really, it's not really about that. But yeah, let's get into it.
Behavior's new, more open-minded approach to the game may be a bit jarring to some of the horror fanatics out there who perceive DBD's entire identity as being closely associated with the horror genre as it has been in the past. You've got many within the community upset that Darth Vader may be horror adjacent, sure, but Star Wars itself is not horror. And so this is the very roots of the civil war taking place on DBD Twitter right now. You have one side of horror purists out there who proclaim that if it isn't horror, then it shouldn't be added to DBD, even if the character is horror adjacent. And then you have the other side who's less concerned about maintaining horror purity and more concerned about broadening DBD's scope and just adding cool shit to the game, whether it fits into the horror genre box or not. This person here says, how are we feeling about a potential Darth Vader in Dead by Daylight? Probably would be rad as hell from a gameplay perspective and would technically make sense from a lore perspective, but DBD would never beat the wannabe Fortnite allegations. So the Fortniteification of DBD has been a hot topic recently, and after this recent news, I'm seeing this term getting thrown around everywhere. And
I will say, though, one thing I want to say, I highly disagree that DBD is becoming Fortnite in that kind of way, because DBD is not a household name like Fortnite is, in a literal sense. I mean, you can ask anybody, have they heard of Fortnite, and they can literally say, yeah, I've heard of it. I've seen it in the store. I walked past this thing and I saw that thing at whatever. I saw this kid I don't know, doing the stupid dance or something. Like, that is something that people can say that they know about. But with DBD, I don't think that really happens at all. I mean, I think this game is extremely niche in that way, despite there being millions of players. I think it's a very niche game. And I don't know if I had posted this video or not, I remember at least, reacting to a video where they were talking about the sort of, like licensing and like how it is a difficult game to kind of find in a lot of ways because the advertising is just not up to par. And I'm not sure if that's on the channel, but I do know that I did hear somebody kind of talk about that topic before, where they said that, the game is not exactly a household name in that kind of way. So I kind of understand the concept of like having a crossover where every character is basically alongside another character in a video game. So they call it the Fortniteification. But ultimately, I don't think that even so, I don't really believe that will fully lean into the Fortnite sort of genre, I guess you could say. And they make it sound as if it's a bad thing that they are starting to go and expand because, of the fact that it's not purely specifically horror stuff. But like a lot of the time, there's some horror stuff that is a little bit niche too. And, I can imagine that they want to, they want to have licenses that people are excited about, and they want to have licenses that will bring people into the game, which is overall better for their bottom line. But once again, let me know what you think in the comments.
I like to share my own opinion on this whole idea. If you don't know what this Fortniteification thing is, it's essentially whenever a company begins adding a large number of IPs from various unrelated franchises into their game. This will often take shape in the form of an overload of crossovers and collaborations being added into one single game, prioritizing commercialization through things like microtransactions and sales, rather than true attempts at doing justice to or providing an immersive experience with the franchises being added. And this can alienate diehard fans of the franchises who feel like their favorite characters are being diluted for profit. Now let me explain why adding Darth Vader to Dead by Daylight isn't actually a good example of Fortniteification, and why I feel like this term is being totally misused. In Fortnite, when characters from external franchises are added, they're typically reduced down to just skins, emotes, or superficial elements that don't meaningfully reflect the source material whatsoever. Whether it's Michael Myers, Master Chief, or Spider-Man, they're all purely aesthetic. They're all performing the same actions within the world of Fortnite, and they're essentially just serving as visual representations of a person's interests rather than embodying the true essence or power fantasy of those characters. There's no deeper integration of their lore or unique game mechanics, abilities, or narratives added into the game's core beyond occasional limited time events, but it's usually strictly cosmetic when it comes.
I completely agree with this. I completely agree, and I didn't even think about that, because with Fortnite, yeah, specifically, like the most you'll probably see is maybe a weapon get added or something that you could use that is from that, license or whatever have you. Sometimes not even, it really just depends. And I do understand the idea that it ultimately is cosmetic and it doesn't really reflect, much about the license itself or how much of anything about the franchise itself. That is completely true. I totally agree with that. It ultimately is just cosmetic. Now, with DBD, because I'm pretty sure he was probably going to bring this up. Like DBD is really captures like the best it can. I would say it does capture the essence and the idea that, and I mentioned this probably in another video. The idea that it's capturing the essence and the sort of core of what the character can do, and it can kind of help you step into those shoes, and that in itself is interesting and fun, in my opinion.
To Fortnite. On the other hand, when Dead by Daylight incorporates an IP, it goes far beyond just cosmetics to deliver a true power fantasy, especially for killers. Each externally licensed chapter is carefully crafted and designed to properly reflect the source material, down to even the lore of the core game, their abilities, perks, survivor interactions, and mechanics like Pinhead's box or Sadako's tapes. Everything. So yeah, BHVR actually respects the integrity of the IPs they collaborate with, and they stay true as best they can to the source material to bring an immersive experience. So this is not even remotely comparable to what Fortnite does for the bulk of their IPs. Next, I want to address all the people saying that Darth Vader isn't scary or that he shouldn't be brought to the game because Star Wars isn't horror and DBD is. I think this is genuinely the dumbest argument I've seen about this whole discussion online, and the sheer amount of gatekeeping I've been seeing lately is insane. There is no fucking way y'all actually want Darth Vader in DBD. You people cannot be serious.
At this rate, DBD will be the next Fortnite.
No.
We must stop the Fortnitification of DBD.
If you want to play Vader, do it on Battlefront. He doesn't need to be in DBD. Everyone's mad, but she's right. Because Darth Vader isn't scary.
Why the fuck are we still calling DBD a horror game in the year 2025? Wake up, dog, this isn't 2016 anymore.
One thing I gotta say before Quiet Kills breaks it down for us, I gotta say one thing, and one thing I have to is that stuff that's scary is ultimately subjective, okay? Like, for example, like, I could sit here and I could go, I'm glad Chucky's in the game, and I don't find him scary, but maybe some people, when they were younger, found him scary. So therefore, you know, would I end up simultaneously saying he shouldn't be in the game? No. Right? Is the genre considered horror? Yes. But Chucky evolved and as a license and over the course of the movies became a horror comedy. So does that therefore take away the idea that he's still a horror icon? Right? Or like, for example, like, people could say Michael Myers isn't scary, right? It's all subjective in that sense. You can literally boil down every single, like, recent example, Springtrap. I don't personally think he's scary, but, you know, he just looks kind of cool, I guess. Like some kind of weird-looking rabbit machine-looking thing. Hey, you know what I'm saying? I don't find that scary personally. Am I going to run around and say he shouldn't be in the game? No. Because I'm like, hey, people like that license and they want to see him in the freaking game. And it's considered coming from a horror game, so so people can make that link. But objectively speaking, I don't think anybody's really having nightmares about that guy. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Well, I guess I should say anybody over the age of like 10, but you know, either way. Point is, okay, and also adding on to what Quiet Kills is about to say, like, another really good example of, you know, of this game really kind of shifting away from horror. I mean, we could talk about the Legion. You know what I mean? Legion are what, a bunch of teenagers wearing masks and holding knives. They're not scary at all. Who's scared of that? Like, nobody, right? There's already stuff that isn't scary already in the game anyway. Like Vecna, he's not scary. Like, I mean, we could do that for every single character. I bet like anybody who's saying, "Oh, that's not scary," probably has their dream license, and then what are we gonna do when they mention theirs? We're gonna say the same thing, you know? Like, it's like, come on, man, you can't be so dismissive to this kind of horror stuff, man.
Orfang Min's wearing bunny hoodies holding flashlights in your pre-lobby is scarier than any killer on the roster. If we could have Lara Croft from Tomb Raider running from a K-pop star wearing a hot pink jacket wielding a bat made out of candy while he's giggling to himself in the game, crossing the line at an intergalactic psychopath who brutally murders men, women, and children and blows entire fucking planets into smithereens is a bit silly. Also, I'm pretty sure Darth Vader is responsible for more deaths than almost any killer on the killer roster. Like, what else does he need? All the tough guys on Twitter saying,
nah, genuinely, Quiet Kills 100% on the money with that. Honestly, he's 100% on the money with that. Vader has killed like hundreds of thousands. Like, one planet alone, I think, had like 800. God damn, I can't remember the population, but he killed, like, he's destroying planets, or like, he's destroying planets. Billions of people have died, like, at the hands of Vader. At this point, like, you know what I'm saying? This is not far-fetched at all.
This dude isn't scary would be the first to shit bricks if they were locked in a pitch black room with nothing except the sounds of his breathing getting louder and the red light from his lightsaber slowly approaching them through the darkness. Are we forgetting that this is the same dude who said, "All I'm surrounded by is fear and dead men"? This dude could choke you with his mind from a mile away just for blinking at him wrong. Dude had the whole galaxy in a headlock for like 2 decades straight, non-stop, belt to ass, fucking those rebels up. Bro was the King Von of space. Stop acting brave on Twitter. You are not cut like that. Look, Star Wars may not technically be horror, but Darth Vader most definitely is horrifying. Also, I just thought I'd add that in a follow-up interview with Matthew Cote, he says that any character they'd consider to be cool to add has a chance of getting into DBD. So don't argue with me, argue with the game director. Sounds like a green light to me. Next, I have an amazing exchange that touches on multiple key points I want to talk about. This person says Darth Vader 100% fits as a killer for DBD. I know there are a few actual horror options they could go with, but nothing comes as iconic as Vader. His terrifying presence shouldn't be underestimated just because he's not a horror character. And this person responds saying whether Vader fits thematically isn't a question, question. His actions and terrifying presence make him a perfect fit. It's just a debate of how far DBD should stray away from being a strictly horror hall of fame. I do respect the people who think Behavior should commit to the horror aspect, but they're going to run out of purely horror picks soon, either due to licensing issues or just lack of compelling remaining options. I'm willing to let them push the boundaries of what can be recontextualized as horror, and Darth Vader can absolutely be terrifying under the right conditions. Yeah, so I think this person is totally correct. I think this is 100% a departure from the limits of horror franchises, and I think it's not just deliberate, but also following a recent trend of doing so. We've got Tomb Raider, Dungeons and Dragons, Nicolas fucking Cage. This is nothing new at this point. I think Behavior is trying to expand their scope because, well, let's be honest, the horror genre and label can only take them so much further in the long run, and they're looking to think bigger than just horror. If heavy hitters like Jason and Pennywise are off the table, there really aren't any other horror icons that will even remotely compare to the hype of the killers we already have on the roster. And in terms of killer,
I completely agree with that idea as well. I think it's pretty much impossible at this point to be able to pull out any licenses that most people would care about. You know, Friday the 13th is one of the last ones that we really care about, I would say, as a whole, as a general population, one of the most iconic horror icons we've ever seen. Literally. And at this point, it's either that or you know, Pennywise, which obviously that is a fever dream at this current point. So I mean, you know, but besides that, well, no one's really, no one outside of the DVD space is really clamoring for other characters that maybe aren't as popular. I can't think of an example off the top of my head. I was about to say Candyman, but even then, I don't know. I don't think that those movies, I don't think the remake really exploded enough in popularity to where it became really iconic. But either way, there's of course there's plenty of licenses that they probably could try to get their hands on, but to be as iconic, especially to add in some of these characters that are insane levels of popularity, I don't know. It's hard to say. You're gonna have to expand if you want this game to continue.
There's only so much left they can do with what's left, so they may instead begin reaching outside of just horror franchises for fresh ideas and new potential. You know, everybody in this community loves to go boo-hoo, DBD is becoming Fortnite, but what they're missing is the fact that Fortnite is one of the most successful games of all time, and it's maintained its relevance and success in large part due to their crossovers, collaborations, and its status as sort of a community hub of pop culture and entertainment media icons in the gaming space. Like it or not, Behavior is a business, and if Star Wars and Terrifier are on the table, Star Wars brings a lot more traffic to the game than Terrifier does. Behavior isn't making moves like these to appeal to the cult of horror purists that play their game. Behavior is shooting for longevity, and they're looking to broaden their market in the scope of who exactly this game is for. And so a potential collaboration with one of the biggest franchises in the history of entertainment and bringing the most iconic villain of all time to their game is just the play to make for this goal. It's not always about just appealing to your base. Sometimes you have to expand it. I truly believe the future.
Honestly, Quiet Kills hits the nail right on the freaking head. I couldn't have said it better myself. And I did touch on it earlier in the video. It ultimately, the focus is trying to expand the game and keep it up its longevity and trying to, do your best to, get to reach more people. That's ultimately what the game is about. It can't stay within that space of being pure for only the horror purists, because even then, those people are very specific with what they like and what they dislike. So, and also keep in mind that they ultimately want to sell things. So, in order to keep your business open, you're gonna have to have things that are appealing to most people. So it's just how it works. We can't really be pulling out of some licenses that nobody really cares about and expect for them to make a profit.
Of Dead by Daylight exists beyond the boundaries of just horror. And look, I'm a huge horror fan myself, but I think you'd be surprised by just how much it limits the potential for growth with this game. And I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if Behavior really started branching out with their licenses in the near future. And honestly, for me, I'm excited and curious to see them take this next step and see where it goes. Of course, there's going to be a bit of growing pains, but hey, look, as long as they do justice to whoever they bring and make it a badass and fun experience for the player base, I don't really see a problem with them branching out. And I love the different possibilities it brings to the game as a whole. So that's what I think, but let me know what you all think.
Yeah, just like Quiet Kills said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section of your thoughts on this concept and all of that kind of stuff. And check out the original video, or at least support Quiet Kills by checking out his channel, which the video for this This video will be linked in the description. While you're there, you can also see links to support the channel. You can follow on Twitch to watch me play Kill Alive. And I will see you guys in the next video.